Der kalte Novemberwind pfeift durch die Straßen von Frankfurt am Main, während Clara Weber die schweren Einkaufstaschen die Treppen zu ihrer kleinen Wohnung im 3. Stock hinaufschleppt. Ihre Hände sind rot und rau von der Kälte, aber sie lächelt trotzdem. In 2 Stunden muss sie fertig sein. Heute Abend ist die große Firmengala ihres Mannes. Markus Weber arbeitet seit 5 Jahren bei der renommierten Investmentfirma Schneider & Partners. Er ist ein ehrgeiziger Mann, immer perfekt gekleidet, immer pünktlich, immer darauf bedacht, den richtigen Eindruck zu machen. Clara kennt ihren Mann gut genug, um zu wissen, dass dieser Abend für ihn mehr bedeutet als nur ein gesellschaftliches Event. Es ist seine Chance, von Herrn Schneider persönlich bemerkt zu werden. Clara stellt die Taschen auf dem Küchentisch ab und beginnt sofort mit den Vorbereitungen. Sie hat ein wunderschönes dunkelblaues Kleid gekauft, das sie sich eigentlich nicht leisten konnte. Aber Markus hatte darauf bestanden. Du musst gut aussehen, hatte er gesagt. Die Leute werden dich ansehen und Schlüsse über mich ziehen. Sie erinnert sich noch genau an den Tag, als sie sich kennengelernt haben. Das war vor 7 Jahren in einem kleinen Café in der Münchener Altstadt. Clara studierte damals Betriebswirtschaft an der Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität. Sie war im letzten Semester, voller Träume und Ambitionen. Markus war gerade mit seinem Studium fertig und arbeitete als Junior-Analyst. Er war charmant, aufmerksam und versprach ihr die Welt. Dann kam die Schwangerschaft. Ungeplant, aber nicht unwillkommen. Clara brach ihr Studium ab, nur ein Semester vor dem Abschluss. Wir schaffen das gemeinsam, hatte Markus versichert. Du kannst später weitermachen. Aber später kam nie. Stattdessen kam die Fehlgeburt im 5. Monat und mit ihr eine Stille zwischen ihnen, die nie wirklich verschwand. Clara schüttelt diese Gedanken ab und konzentriert sich auf das Hier und Jetzt. Sie duscht schnell, föhnt ihre langen braunen Haare und beginnt mit dem Make-up. Ihre Hände zittern leicht, als sie den Eyeliner aufträgt. Sie weiß nicht genau warum, aber sie fühlt eine seltsame Unruhe in ihrem Bauch. Markus kommt um 17 Uhr nach Hause, eine Stunde vor der geplanten Abfahrt. Er trägt bereits seinen maßgeschneiderten Anzug von Hugo Boss und riecht nach teurem Aftershave. Er wirft einen kurzen Blick auf Clara und nickt anerkennend. Gut, sagt er knapp. Das Kleid passt. Denk dran, nicht zu viel reden heute Abend. Einfach lächeln und nett sein. Und bitte, Clara, keine peinlichen Geschichten aus unserer Vergangenheit. Clara schluckt den Kloß in ihrem Hals hinunter und nickt. Sie ist es gewohnt, ihre Gefühle für sich zu behalten. Die Fahrt zum Grand Hotel Hessischer Hof dauert 30 Minuten. Markus spricht die ganze Zeit über seine Kollegen, über die Hierarchie in der Firma, über die Wichtigkeit des heutigen Abends. Clara hört zu, stellt keine Fragen. Sie kennt ihre Rolle. Als sie vor dem imposanten Jugendstilgebäude ankommen, stockt Clara der Atem. Das Hotel ist atemberaubend schön, mit seinen hohen Säulen und den glitzernden Kronleuchtern, die durch die großen Fenster zu sehen sind. Ein roter Teppich führt zum Eingang, flankiert von livrierten Türstern. Markus reicht dem Parkservice die Schlüssel seines BMW und bietet Clara steif den Arm. Zusammen betreten sie die prächtige Lobby. Überall stehen Gruppen von elegant gekleideten Menschen, unterhalten sich leise, nippen an Champagner. Eine Streichquartett spielt Mozart in einer Ecke. Clara fühlt sich plötzlich fehl am Platz, trotz ihres schönen Kleides. Diese Welt ist nicht ihre Welt. Sie gehört in ihre kleine Küche, wo sie Apfelkuchen backt und Kaffee kocht, nicht hierher, wo jede Bewegung, jedes Wort gewogen und beurteilt wird. Markus, ruft eine Stimme. Ein großer Mann mit grauen Schläfen und einem breiten Lächeln kommt auf sie zu. Es ist Stefan Richter, einer von Markus' Kollegen. Schön, dass du es geschafft hast. Und das muss deine Frau sein. Markus zögert einen winzigen Moment, so kurz, dass nur Clara es bemerkt. Dann sagt er mit einem Lächeln, das nicht seine Augen erreicht, ja, das ist Clara. Sie hilft heute Abend mit der Garderobe aus. Die Welt um Clara herum scheint plötzlich still zu stehen. Sie hört die Worte, aber ihr Gehirn weigert sich, sie zu verarbeiten. Hat ihr Mann sie gerade als Garderobenhilfe vorgestellt? Als Dienstmädchen? Stefan Richter lacht unsicher. Du machst Witze, oder? Markus lacht ebenfalls, aber seine Augen sind kalt. Nein, nein. Clara wollte sich nützlich machen. Sie ist nicht so der Typ für diese formellen Events, weißt du? Claras Wangen brennen. Sie will etwas sagen, will schreien, will weglaufen, aber ihre Füße scheinen am Boden festgewachsen zu sein. Clara steht wie erstarrt da, während Markus und Stefan sich weiter unterhalten, als wäre nichts geschehen. Ihre Finger umklammern ihre kleine Abendtasche so fest, dass ihre Knöchel weiß werden. Sie versucht zu atmen, aber die Luft scheint in ihrer Kehle stecken zu bleiben. Entschuldigt mich, murmelt sie leise und dreht sich um, bevor die Tränen kommen können. Sie bahnt sich einen Weg durch die Menschenmenge, vorbei an lachenden Gesichtern und klirrenden Champagnergläsern, bis sie die Damentoilette erreicht. Dort, vor dem großen Spiegel mit den goldenen Verzierungen, lässt sie endlich die Tränen fließen. 7 Jahre. 7 Jahre hat sie ihre eigenen Träume aufgegeben, hat ihre Karriere geopfert, hat sich klein gemacht, damit er groß werden konnte. Und so dankt er es ihr? Indem er sie vor seinen Kollegen als Dienstmädchen ausgibt? Eine ältere Frau in einem eleganten schwarzen Kleid betritt die Toilette und wirft Clara einen besorgten Blick zu. Alles in Ordnung, meine Liebe? Clara wischt sich schnell die Tränen ab und nickt. Ja, danke. Nur etwas Staub im Auge. Die Frau lächelt mitfühlend, sagt aber nichts weiter. Als sie wieder allein ist, betrachtet Clara ihr Gesicht im Spiegel. Wer ist diese Frau, die zurückblickt? Sie erkennt sich kaum wieder. Wo ist die selbstbewusste Studentin geblieben, die davon träumte, ihre eigene Unternehmensberatung zu gründen? Wo ist die Clara, die an sich selbst glaubte? Sie nimmt ihr Handy aus der Tasche. Ihre Finger schweben über der Kontaktliste. Sie könnte ihre beste Freundin Sophia anrufen, die in Berlin lebt. Sie könnte ihre Mutter anrufen. Aber was würde sie sagen? Dass ihr Mann sich für sie schämt? Dass sie sich selbst dafür schämt, so lange geblieben zu sein? Nein. Sie wird nicht weglaufen. Nicht heute Abend. Sie richtet ihr Make-up, hebt den Kopf und verlässt die Toilette. Als sie in den großen Ballsaal zurückkehrt, ist die Gala in vollem Gange. Hunderte von Menschen füllen den Raum, ein Orchester spielt jetzt statt des Quartetts und überall werden Häppchen und Champagner serviert. Clara sieht Markus auf der anderen Seite des Raumes. Er steht in einer Gruppe von Männern in dunklen Anzügen und lacht über irgendeinen Witz. Sie geht nicht zu ihm. Stattdessen nimmt sie sich ein Glas Champagner von einem vorbeigehenden Kellner und stellt sich an den Rand des Raumes. Von hier aus kann sie alles beobachten, ohne selbst im Mittelpunkt zu stehen. Plötzlich verstummt die Musik. Ein Mann betritt die kleine Bühne am Ende des Saales. Er ist groß, etwa Mitte 50, mit einem grauen Bart und einer Ausstrahlung, die sofort Respekt einflößt. Die Menge wird still. Das muss Herr Schneider sein, denkt Clara. Der gefürchtete und verehrte Chef der Firma. Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren, beginnt er mit tiefer, sonorer Stimme. Ich möchte Ihnen allen danken, dass Sie heute Abend hier sind.
Catherine's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. Margaret saw it clearly, the calculation happening in real time. Several nearby executives had turned to listen, attracted by the mention of financial struggles. In a room full of people who measured success by zeros in bank accounts, Robert had just announced his inadequacy. How resourceful, Catherine said evenly. Her eyes found Margaret again, and this time there was something different in her gaze. A question. A challenge. An emotion Margaret couldn't quite name. Robert finally spotted Margaret near the column. There she is. He waved, beckoning her over with the casual entitlement of someone who didn't understand what he was asking. Margaret, come meet Miss Thornfield. Margaret's training screamed at her to politely decline, to cite work duties and slip away. But the executives were watching now. Patricia was watching from across the room, her face tight with disapproval. And Catherine was watching with those calculating eyes that remembered everything. Margaret set down her tray on a nearby table and walked forward, each step feeling like a betrayal of the invisible armor she'd spent years constructing. Her cheap shoes clicked too loudly on marble floors. Her uniform suddenly felt like a costume in a play she never auditioned for. Robert smiled, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. "Miss Thornfield, this is my wife, Margaret. Margaret, this is our new CEO." Catherine extended her hand, and Margaret had no choice but to take it. Catherine's handshake was firm, professional, but her thumb pressed twice against Margaret's palm. A signal. Their old signal from 20 years ago, when they were different people in a different world. "Actually, Mr. Chen," Catherine said, releasing Margaret's hand, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding this evening." Robert blinked, confused. A misunderstanding? Margaret felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. Catherine was going to say something. Something that would unravel everything. She wanted to speak, to stop whatever was coming, but her voice had disappeared along with her courage. "Your wife isn't working for the catering company tonight." Catherine's voice cut through the ambient noise of the gala like a knife through silk. "She's here as my personal guest. As co-host of this event, actually." The silence that followed was absolute. Robert's smile froze on his face. The nearby executives exchanged glances. Patricia, across the room, looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Margaret felt the world narrow to a single point of focus, Catherine's unwavering gaze. "I don't understand," Robert said slowly. "Margaret, what is she talking about?" But Catherine wasn't finished. She turned to address the growing circle of onlookers, her voice carrying with the authority of someone born to command rooms. "Margaret Chen and I attended Columbia Business School together. She graduated top of our class, actually. Summa cum laude. Her thesis on sustainable corporate restructuring was published in 3 major journals." She turned back to Robert, and there was steel beneath her polite smile. "I'm surprised she never mentioned it." Margaret felt 20 years of carefully constructed walls crumbling. Robert was staring at her like she was a stranger. Because in that moment, she was. The woman he'd married, the woman who'd quietly supported his career while working retail jobs and catering gigs, had never existed. Or rather, she'd existed as only a fraction of who Margaret actually was. "I reached out to Margaret 6 weeks ago," Catherine continued smoothly, "when I accepted the CEO position. I needed someone I could trust to help reorganize Thornfield's corporate culture. Someone with insight, discretion, and a proven track record of seeing what others miss." She gestured elegantly toward Margaret. The catering uniform was her idea, actually. She wanted to observe the company from the inside, to see how management treats staff when they think no one important is watching. It was a beautiful lie, delivered with such confidence that even Margaret almost believed it. Catherine was rewriting history in real time, transforming humiliation into strategy, invisibility into power. If you've been moved by Margaret's story and want to see how this evening unfolds, take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel. Because what happens next will change everything, not just for Margaret, but for everyone in that ballroom. Robert opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Margaret, is this true?" Margaret looked at her husband, at the confusion and hurt written across his face, and something inside her shifted. For 15 years, she'd made herself smaller, quieter, less threatening. She'd turned down job offers, declined invitations to professional conferences, pretended her Columbia MBA was just an expensive piece of paper collecting dust in a drawer. She'd done it because Robert had asked her to, early in their marriage. "You're so brilliant it intimidates people," he'd said, holding her hands across their tiny kitchen table. "It intimidates me sometimes. Can we just be normal? Can you just be my wife?" And she'd said yes. Because she loved him. Because Emily needed stability. Because she was tired of fighting to be seen in rooms full of men who looked past her. But standing in that ballroom, with Catherine's lie hanging in the air like a lifeline, Margaret made a choice. "Yes," she said clearly. "It's true. Robert's face went pale. You've been lying to me? For 6 weeks. I've been lying to you for 15 years, Margaret said quietly. The admission felt like breaking the surface after being underwater too long. I've been lying every time I pretended I didn't mind being introduced as just your wife. Every time I smiled through another dinner party where you explained my own field to me because you forgot I studied it first. Every time I made myself invisible so you could feel bigger. The executives had gone completely silent. This was better than any corporate drama they could have orchestrated. Patricia had disappeared entirely, probably already calling her supervisor. Catherine stepped closer, her presence a shield. Mr. Chen, I think you and your wife need to have a private conversation. However, I should clarify something for everyone here. She raised her voice slightly, ensuring the crowd heard every word. Effective immediately, Margaret Chen is Thornfield Industries' new Vice President of Strategic Operations. Her salary will be $420,000 annually, plus stock options and full executive benefits. The number hit Robert like a physical blow. That was more than triple his salary. More than he'd earn in 5 years of climbing the corporate ladder rung by careful rung. Margaret, he whispered, his voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me you'd been talking to her? Because I wasn't, Margaret said. She looked at Catherine, saw the slight nod of acknowledgement. Until 5 minutes ago, I had no idea Catherine Thornfield was the new CEO. Until tonight, I was exactly who you thought I was. A woman serving champagne to people who didn't see her. She pulled off her apron, folded it carefully, and set it on the nearest table. But I'm done being invisible. I'm done pretending I'm less than I am so you can pretend you're more than you are. Robert reached for her arm. Margaret, please. Everyone's watching. She pulled away gently. I know. That's the point. Catherine gestured to 2 security personnel standing near the entrance. Gentlemen, please escort Mrs. Chen to the executive lounge on the 42nd floor. Ensure she has privacy and anything she needs. As Margaret turned to leave, Robert grabbed her hand one more time. His grip was desperate, his eyes pleading. Don't do this. Don't throw away our marriage over pride. Think about Emily. Margaret stopped. For a moment, the anger drained from her face, replaced by something softer and infinitely sadder. Emily called me last week from campus. She told me she's afraid to tell you she changed her major from business to social work. She's terrified of disappointing you the way she thinks I've disappointed you by not being successful enough. Robert's hand dropped. What? Our daughter is scared to be herself around her own father, Margaret continued, her voice steady despite the tears pooling in her eyes. She's watched me disappear piece by piece for 15 years, and she's learned that's what women do. They make themselves smaller so the men they love can feel adequate. The ballroom had become a theater, every guest frozen in their roles as witnesses. Catherine stood perfectly still, letting Margaret's words fill the space. I won't teach her that anymore, Margaret said. I won't show her that love means erasure. She deserves better. I deserve better. She walked toward the security personnel, her shoulders straight, her steps certain. The crowd parted silently. As she reached the ballroom doors, Catherine's voice rang out one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust everyone will treat this evening with the discretion it deserves. Thornfield Industries values privacy and respects the personal matters of all employees. She paused meaningfully. All employees. It was a warning wrapped in corporate politeness. Anyone who gossiped about tonight would find themselves on the wrong side of the new CEO. Margaret rode the elevator alone, watching the numbers climb. 42 floors felt like rising from underwater, from a depth she hadn't realized she'd sunk to. The executive lounge was empty, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of Manhattan at night. Rain still fell against the glass, but from up here, the storm looked beautiful instead of oppressive. She sat on a leather couch and finally let herself cry. Not from sadness, exactly, but from release. From the overwhelming relief of being seen after years of invisibility. Her phone buzzed. A text from Emily, "Mom, I just got the weirdest call from Dad. He sounds upset. Are you okay?" Margaret typed back slowly, "I'm better than I've been in a long time. Call you tomorrow. I love you." Another buzz. This time from Catherine, "Take the rest of the week. My assistant will contact you Monday about the VP position. It's real, if you want it. You always deserved better than what you settled for." Margaret stared at the message, then out at the glittering city below. For the first time in 15 years, she let herself imagine a different future. 18 months later, Margaret stood in her corner office on the 44th floor of Thornfield Tower, reviewing quarterly reports. Outside, spring sunshine painted Manhattan in gold. The city looked different from up here, full of possibility instead of obstacles. Her phone rang. Emily's face appeared on the screen, calling from her apartment in Brooklyn where she now worked for a non-profit supporting immigrant families. "Hey Mom, just confirming dinner tonight. I'm bringing someone I want you to meet." Margaret smiled. "The boyfriend you've been mysteriously avoiding mentioning?" Emily laughed. "Maybe. He's nervous about meeting the VP of Strategic Operations. Tell him I'm way more nervous about meeting the person who makes my daughter happy." After they hung up, Margaret turned back to her desk. A framed photo sat beside her computer, Emily at her college graduation, beaming with confidence, her arm around Margaret's shoulders. No fear in her eyes anymore. No learned smallness. The divorce had been finalized 4 months ago. Robert had contested it initially, tried therapy, sent flowers, written letters promising he'd change. But Margaret had been clear, she wasn't angry anymore, but she also wasn't going back. Some chapters needed to end so new ones could begin. He'd eventually accepted a transfer to Thornfield's Chicago office. A lateral move, not a promotion, but a fresh start. They were cordial now, co-parenting Emily from a distance, both of them learning to be individuals instead of half of something broken. A knock on her door. Catherine entered carrying 2 coffee cups. "Thought you could use this before the board meeting." Margaret accepted gratefully. "Thank you. For this, and for everything else." Catherine sat across from her, the easy familiarity of old friends who'd found each other again after years apart. "I didn't save you that night, you know. I just gave you permission to save yourself." "Still," Margaret said quietly. "You saw me when I'd forgotten how to be visible." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city move below them. 2 women who'd taken different paths to the same truth, that being seen, truly seen, was both terrifying and essential. Margaret's assistant buzzed. "The board is ready for you, Miss Chen." As Margaret gathered her materials, Catherine stood. "You're going to revolutionize how this company treats people. I knew it 18 months ago, and I know it even more now." Margaret smiled, the kind of smile that reached all the way to her eyes. "We're going to revolutionize it. Together." She walked toward the boardroom, her heels clicking confidently on polished floors. No longer invisible. No longer small. Just herself, finally, completely.